In today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means.
Sorry.
Let me explain something to you. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port, a lockdown. You know what's gonna happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Tearful on you. Go ahead. Tearful means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. In today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody.
Well, I tell you what, if the strike does happen, then that will be the trifecta of inflation because that we will realize fewer goods and services. The supply chain disruption will cause us to be able to receive fewer goods and services. We have a cousin that is in Asheville, North Carolina. She works at a grocery store. And she was just telling us just before the show that the grocery warehouse is flooded. And her store will not receive another shipment for a month. Okay. So you got the storm, you got the strike, and Jerome Powell just lowered interest rates. So when you lower interest rates, inflation tends to go in the other direction. So this could be, I mean, like she needs any more bad news. This could be extremely bad for Kamala Harris because in the short term, we're going to see shortages. And when you have the same amount of demand and less supply, you get higher prices. But I would like to say that with regard to the strike, they are so right to stand firm. And look, even though we might realize some disruption, we have to, as middle-class folk, we have to stand behind them no matter how long it takes. And the reason for that is because in the mid to late 19th century, there were 21 million horses in America. Okay. They were doing all kinds of work, travel, farming, all kinds of things. They even had them employed in wars. All right. When the automobile was invented, then, you know, not only did you see human beings go from manufacturing carriages and cultivating horses, you saw them go to factories. But you saw the horse pretty much disappear. There are 9 million horses in America today. That's less than half of what we had before the automobile. When we talk about AI, okay, when we talk about AI, we're not the human, we're the horse, okay, in that equation. So they need to stand firm. We got to stand behind them.
Yeah. If this was a private company, I would have no problems. But this is on taxpayers' dimes largely. I do believe that I'm not for public unions, if you will, because taxpayers are funding them to strike against us. So I mean, it's not going to be good for the taxpayers. I think our president, what's his name again? Biden. I read earlier that he said that, you know, he's not going to go and get in because why? Because he needs the labor unions donations to fund his own daggone Party and PAC for Kamala Harris. So this is definitely not a good deal for Americans and taxpayers. I hope it does not happen, because I don't want to see more people. The Gulf is already hit by Helene, right? These ports are going to bring more devastation. People are going to be out of work. These are homes and people who are just overrun by this flood. It's going to be all around a mess, and that's putting it lightly.
So we actually here in Baltimore have one of the largest ports in the country, right here in Baltimore. I do have longshoremen who are part of that, and I did reach out to them today. Guys, we're in this is going to be major because what's going on here is what was relayed to me is the thing that sparked this strike. It wasn't so much the $5 increase that they're requesting. It was because in Canada, they are automating jobs that longshoremen do. They're trying to do some type of automation. And so what would happen with this automation is then longshoremen and people that work on the port would get laid off. And so the U.S. longshoremen are pushing back against this automation because they know that they're going to lose jobs.
Right.
So we kind of talked about this last year. We heard a lot of people were talking about how they were trying to automate not only the ports, but the trucking industry at a whole. I know we have a lot of truck drivers that listen to us, but truck drivers were calling in on talk radio and all kinds of things, talking about how they're supposed to be automating a lot of their jobs. And it looks like this is what they're trying to do. And so this is what kind of sparked this strike, the strike. And then of course they were asking for increased wages. So I mean, I definitely don't want to strike. I mean, because of what we can, they're talking about this thing is going to cause all kinds of major issues, like you were saying, Tyrone, with food, gas, all types of shortages. So I do encourage you guys to go to the grocery store. But in the same way, I understand it. I certainly do, because I am against automation, on this type of stuff. I'm against it. So
these are, again, remember during the scamdemic, these elitists, they basically facilitated and chose what they thought were essential jobs and essential personnel. We're about to see who is really and what jobs are really essential. I love truckers. When I'm driving on the highway, I like to, blow my horn and just say hi and say thank you in the rest stops, things like that, because America moves on truckers.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Tyrone, because you mentioned, inflation, and is this because we have people who were talking about price gouging? So would price gouging happen? And how can you talk about that?
Price gouging is a phenomenon. Okay. It has happened. However, when you raise your prices as a result of the price you pay to get the item, that's not price gouging. That is the law of supply and demand. So if, for example, Saudi Arabia says, we're going to cut back on oil production. All right. It's a global market. So the demand has remained the same, but there's less of it. So people are going to bid that price up. Okay. That is just a natural phenomenon, a natural economic phenomenon.
And not only that, but again, we're back to globalization. What do people think when they start automating all this stuff? They want to automate many of these things, not just to lower prices and things like that, but it's for globalization. Because if something is automated, whether I'm here or whether I'm in, Israel, I can control it. Right. I forget who was telling me about this. How they had a friend who had a one of those new Teslas, the ones that look like a spaceship. And so it was in a foreign country, and apparently they had jimmied this vehicle. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of the truck, but it's those ones that look really like octagonal, like an octagon.
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck. Yeah, they had a Cybertruck, And apparently this person was a multimillionaire, had made the Cybertruck where it had some type of military style gun on top of the Cybertruck. And I guess it got wind to Tesla, and they made this truck inoperable from wherever they were. So they just stopped all mechanical operations within the truck. This is where they want many of us to be going forward. This is dangerous. Now, again, do I want somebody with an AK on top of their truck? Not really. But I do.
Don't be so hasty.
I do.
You may not want that in 2024, but give it a couple of years.
Right, I do. But I definitely don't want the idea of mass production of these types of vehicles where they can stop my usage, no matter where I am, no matter where I go. But this is what they're doing here in Baltimore City tonight. Actually, our mayor is putting forth a city council amendment or a law that outlaws gas-powered blowers. It's about to pass. If it hasn't done so,
sure it will.
Yeah. So again, we're seeing all this type of stuff all across the country from these leftists, these authoritarians. This is what they're trying to do. Yet they tell us Trump is the fascist.
People, the left typically does not understand how the world works.
Nope.
They really have this idea that electricity is like magical, okay, in that it comes from nowhere. When in fact, fossil fuels still are the majority source behind electrical generation in this country. Okay. Not only that, when this Hurricane Helene came through, electric cars and bicycles demonstrated a very serious design issue. When water hits that battery, it can cause a tremendous fire, in some cases explosion. Okay. And that's something that we're seeing that's like, we've never seen that before. Okay.
Right.
Also, guys, the electric car is nothing new. The electric car predates the popularity of the internal combustion engine car. It just, for whatever reason, it didn't catch on, probably because the electrical infrastructure wasn't there at the time. And it's still not here now.
Right.
It's still not. Right. You're right.
All of these bans, like you mentioned, the gas blower, cars, and it's not just the Tesla. These smart cars, this is, again, I think is part of a bigger agenda. It's all about power and control. Remember, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will not be able to take your little happy ass no further than 100 feet or whatever it may be around your community. You want to work from home only. Every camera is going to know where you go, how much you drive, what you're spending on your credit card, whatever. This is all about control.